everybody. Welcome to the world's greatest Bronze Age Spider-Man podcast. Here comes the Spider-Cast. I'm your co-host, Mike Allen. As always, I'm joined by
Joshua Mervell, and today we are going to be taking a look at 3 of the episodes from the 90s Spider-Man cartoon.
That's right. We are wrapping up the end of Season 4 and starting Season 5. And the first episode we're going to talk about is Partners in Danger, Chapter 10, The Lizard King. Very succinct title.
Season 4, Episode 10.
Yep. And Josh, tell us what happened in this one.
All right. So we're picking up from last episode where Peter has revealed his identity to Mary Jane, and he asks MJ to marry him. She says yes, and then they kind of tell the family. They tell Aunt May and Aunt Anna and all them, and then they're trying to figure out the wedding situation and what's going to be happening, and they decide to ask Curt Connors to give MJ away at the wedding and to walk her down the aisle, which doesn't really make any sense. I don't think that MJ or Curt Connors have ever even had a conversation together. It makes sense for him being a father figure to Spider-Man, to Peter, but anyways. Then we also get a reveal that Curt Connors is kind of using an updated lizard serum, because we see him with a lizard arm, but he is still in control. So I think MJ and Peter are on a date at some point, and then a bunch of lizards start spying on them.
A bunch of lizard people. Yes.
Yeah, a bunch of lizard people. Oh, this is at the same time that MJ asks Curt Connors. These lizard people show up, and Peter's runs away to change into Spider-Man, and he confronts these lizard people that are trying to kidnap MJ and Curt Connors because they believe that Curt Connors is their father. So we see them in the sewers after they've been kidnapped. Peter unfortunately wasn't able to save them. So as they're down in the sewers, it's revealed that when Curt Connors was in the full lizard form, he had a bunch of pet lizards down in the sewer, and when he went back into a human, the lizards escaped and lived in the sewers, and some sort of ooze, some sort of secret Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle secret ooze dripped on them, and they turned into mutant lizards.
Right.
And so technically it's kind of like Curt Connors is their father because he owned them when they were actual lizards and not lizard people. So they have some weird plan to kidnap him and make him the leader. And it doesn't look like Curt Connors is possibly going to make it out of this. Spider-Man can't defeat these lizard people. So he goes down and saves MJ, and MJ is able to escape and run to Curt Connors' wife and tell her what's going on, and reveals that there's a tape somewhere hidden in their house in case anything like this were to happen. And she plays the tape, and it's Curt Connors recording himself, and he essentially explains that if this were to ever happen and there were to be a huge outbreak, or if he was to turn into a lizard, there is this explosive device, a detonation, that is supposed to destroy anything that has radioactive mutated blood. So it's a bomb to kill all twisted mutant people.
Right.
So because there's so many of these lizard people living in the sewers, and Curt Connors is is kidnapped by them, they feel like this is possibly their only option. I believe it's MJ who says there has to be something else that they can do. So they actually bring this to Deb Whitman, our favorite character in the show. And it turns out that she's able to change this explosive device through science, I guess.
Using science, yeah.
To not kill everything that is mutated, but to kill the mutations themselves, turning them back into their original form. So their plan is to now go into the sewer, find Kurt Connors and the rest of the lizard people, set off this detonation, and turn everybody back into lizards, or in Kurt Connors' case, human. And there is this like big battle, and like Spider-Man is thrown into like a gladiator lizard ring or whatever. Nobody really cares. The detonation goes off and everybody turns into a lizard, and Kurt Connors turns back into a human, and Peter and MJ get away and make out on the rooftop at the end of the episode.
So yeah. I thought this episode was pretty good. I mean, all things considered.
It's a weird premise, but it's good.
Yeah, like, I don't know if I think, like, okay, I can accept the lizard. Can I accept more lizards? That seems to be pushing the boundaries of believability, right? Like, it doesn't.
Right.
Like, it doesn't.
I draw the line at one lizard man.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's one thing for the lizard to be a villain that like fights Spider-Man, but to have like more lizard people living in the sewers, it kind of ceases to become a Spider-Man story. It's becoming something weirder.
Yeah,
I don't know if you agree.
It also, I think where it's weird for me is that it's not somehow tied to like something that Kurt Connors is actively doing to like create the serum or something. It just happens to be this other ooze that leaks into the sewers that the lizards go and lick up to turn them into lizard people that look and act exactly like Kurt Connors. You know what I mean? I think it would be a little bit more like believable and less of a plot hole if it was like some sort of gas leak or something that was happening from an experiment that Kurt Connors was doing to help develop a better serum that wasn't going to turn him into a full lizard or something, right? Like this, something that he has done has like caused this to happen. And that's why they turn into lizard people that look identical to him, essentially.
Right.
That could be, it is a little weird that there's this whole society down here of people that have just been living down here for years, I guess, long enough to make a gladiator arena and have like a huge stadium.
That's where it pushes
you know what I mean? Like that's
right?
what
like that's where it becomes really stupid. Is that
yeah.
Everything else is okay. I mean, it's enjoyable. It's definitely enjoyable. But the question is it appropriate to this show? I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
So
the animation was also okay in this one.
Yeah.
I was surprised at how well it was done for it being kind of like a one-off filler episode. Like nothing super important happens in it. We already know that MJ and Peter are engaged, or that his identity was revealed at least. So it, like nothing of consequence really happens in this issue.
Right.
Sorry.
Episode. Yeah, but I get what you mean. I don't know. I guess it's kind of like. And here's the thing: is as far as I know, this is also not based on any particular Spider-Man story.
No,
right?
I don't think so.
So it's kind of not really essential viewing. It's not really a classic Spidey story adapted, right? So I did think it was enjoyable, but it's also easily skippable.
Yeah, it kind of had the Marvel team up vibe of like the Doctor Strange issues where he's fighting the lizard people that can only be defeated by the spider god or whatever, so they kidnap Spider-Man. A little strange, definitely skippable, but fun. Like I still enjoyed watching this one.
Sure.
So it's kind of like a middle of the road. Like it's a fun one, and I had fun watching it, but I don't think I'd go out of my way to like recommend it either.
Good point. Yeah, I pretty much agree with you. But I did like seeing the different lizards and the different shades of green they used for each character. So that was cool.
Yeah, they look really interesting. It just doesn't feel like it necessarily belongs in this universe of Spider-Man. Like nothing has been established to develop an underground lizard gladiator arena and a whole society of these people.
Exactly.
So
mild recommendation, right?
Mm-hmm. And I love Deb, love Kurt.
Oh yeah,
well.
we love Deb.
Kurt
Everyone
Connors
loves Deborah Whitman. That's the rule in the show, right?
It's just so great seeing that she actually has something to do here.
Right.
Yeah, it's fun.
Mm. But on that note, is there anything else to say about this episode?
No, I was going to say, let's move on to the finale of season 4.
There you go. The
episode
Prowler.
11. Yeah. Partners in Danger, chapter 11. The
11?
Prowler.
Yeah. Odd number to end on, but whatever.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Let me just pull up the episode so I can have I can scrub through and kind of refresh
and as you're
myself
saying
on
that,
what's going
let's
on.
remind viewers and listeners that the Prowler did appear in Into the Spider-Verse. He's a classic Spider-Man character invented in the 60s by Stan Lee and John Romita Sr. He's got a great costume, partially ripped off by Spawn, by Todd McFarlane.
I thought the Prowler was introduced before Spawn, no?
No, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
He was ripped off by Spawn, yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
okay.
the Prowler's from like the late 60s. Spawn is from 92, I think. So,
gotcha, yeah.
Did I say that backwards?
Oh, well, I thought so. I could have also heard it backwards.
Oh, okay.
But okay, so we catch up with Spidey. He's doing Spidey things. Goes back into his apartment building, and he turns back into his Peter Parker costume, or I guess clothes. And the Prowler actually shows up and threatens Peter Parker and says, like, "Where's Spider-Man? I know you know who he is. I know you guys have a deal together. Tell me what's going on." Peter's like, "I don't even know who you are. What's going on?" He takes off his mask and he reveals that he's Hobie Brown. Right. And Peter says, "Who? Who's that?" Because, of course, we know as an audience who he is reading the comics, but he has not shown up in the show yet. So the rest of the episode, for the most part, is a big flashback episode. And it's Prowler kind of telling the origin of who he is. And kind of how he became to be and how he's tied in with Spider-Man. So we see that he originally was just kind of this hired goon for this guy named, if I remember, not Mr. Freeze.
The Iceberg.
The Iceberg.
Or just Iceberg, yeah.
Right.
Who, by the way, I'm not sure. I don't think he's from the comics, is he?
I have never heard of this character before.
I've never heard of him either.
I don't even remember him. Like, I don't remember this episode even, like, watching it. So
Me neither. Okay.
So yeah, I'm not familiar with this guy, but he's not super important. He's just like a gang leader that has superpowers that Hobie is working for. So Hobie is caught saying that he kind of wants to like skim off the top and make a little bit of extra cash from the jobs he's doing. And Iceberg hears this and immediately confronts him and tells his other goons to off him. Hobie ends up escaping. And he is at one point caught stealing money from MJ. And Peter Parker sees this, so he quickly changes into his Spidey costume and stops him to get his purse get her purse and her money back. And he ends up going to jail because of this. In jail, he actually protects this guy that is being like bullied, I guess, in jail, or like taunted and stuff. And it ends up being the Rose, Wilson Fisk's son. And because of that, when Hobie gets out of jail, he actually gets out of jail early as a favor from the Kingpin. And the Kingpin decides that he's going to, as a thank you, give him a cool new costume, which is the Prowler costume. Tells him all the cool updates on the costume and what it's about. It's got these cool metal claws. It's bulletproof, all of this stuff. No strings attached. Well, it turns out that there definitely were strings attached. He uses this to take down Iceberg. And as he's kind of addressing his new goons as he becomes the leader of this gang. He starts getting electrified, and this robot flies in and starts projecting a hologram of Kingpin as he kind of reveals that guess what? There actually are strings attached. You have to come back to my headquarters to recharge. Unfortunately, batteries aren't included. And if you try taking the costume off, there's actually an explosive device and you'll die. So he has to go back and team up with Kingpin. And that is why he is trying to find Spider-Man. Because he wants to team up with Spider-Man to take down Kingpin. So then we kind of cut back to present day, and Peter informs Spider-Man after helping Hobie kind of take control of the electric shocks that are shocking him. Spider-Man comes and destroys the device, and the two of them team up and stop Kingpin and release Hobie Brown from his imprisonment in the costume. So we kind of see that Prowler ends up being a possible ally for Spider-Man in the future. Even though he's kind of like a vigilante, he is a costumed person, but kind of doing things for his own gain and a villain. So maybe we'll see him turn to being a full hero later on. Then we see kind of like a little vignette of Peter bringing flowers to MJ at a restaurant.
So I'm confused. Yeah. Is this the first appearance of the Prowler, or have we seen him before?
In the show, this is the first appearance. Yeah.
Wow. But they act like he's been in it before, don't they?
So they act like he's been in it before at the beginning, and then they make it a flashback. So
okay,
as an audience member, we're like, who is this guy? And then when he's telling Peter Parker who he is showing us the origin of how he is tied in with Spider-Man. So apparently Peter was lying at the beginning when he said, I don't know who you are, because he didn't want to reveal that he was Spider-Man.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, this was pretty fun. It's been a while since we've seen or heard from the Prowler in the comics. I remember Hobie Brown was a more well-known character and around when we first started reading comics in the early 80s. And I believe actually at the time we saw the original Prowler, and then he kind of gave up being the Prowler, and then somebody stole the costume, and there was a new Prowler at the time that was running around.
I don't remember that.
No?
No, when was that?
That was early in the 80s.
Oh, I don't remember that at all. We read that?
Prowler. Yeah.
What? I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, it was pretty it was pretty early on. No, it was definitely the Prowler, and I believe Hobie Brown went to prison or something for being the Prowler, and then when he came out, he's like, I'm done, I'm not doing this anymore, and the costume sat around in some sort of facility, and then it was stolen, and it was used by some other person who was using it to rob banks and stuff.
Damn, you're right. The second version of the Prowler appeared in Spectacular 47 October 1980, which you and I definitely read.
Yeah, but it's been quite some time.
Okay.
Rick Lawson, I think maybe.
Well, the original was, let me see.
Well, it was Hobie Brown was the original.
Yeah, then unnamed. Then Rick Lawson was the third Prowler.
Oh, okay.
Who appeared in Sensational Spider-Man number 16. Then the fourth one was Aaron Davis, who appeared in Ultimate Comics Spider-Man number 1.
Right.
Anyway. So yeah, I've always liked the Prowler. Very cool costume. Again, we said probably partially inspired Spawn. Good character. I like this episode. The fact that I didn't realize that he hadn't appeared before was kind of weird, but that's my fault. But yeah, this was a pretty interesting episode. I don't know, it was kind of something different, right?
Yeah, I also think that this is the best episode of Kingpin yet, because we kind of actually see him doing something and see that his reach and his kind of powers actually have some weight. So like getting him out of jail early, making a deal with him, giving him the costume, and then being like, haha, I tricked you, you idiot. Like now you're like in, servitude to me because you can't take this costume off. So now you're kind of just going to be like my henchman and work for me from now on. That was kind of nice to see the Kingpin be the bad guy without having to like have a big punch him up fist fight bad guy. Yeah, I like this character a lot. I even liked the backstory that they made. I'm not sure if this is his backstory in the comics.
Yeah, I don't really know either. I don't know much about him, but yeah, it was pretty interesting though.
Yeah.
I mean, the animation is always good. What are you going to say about the animation? This is a solid, good one. So no complaints about that. It was a little bit more down to earth versus the one that we just watched with all the lizard people, right? So that was good. So that's always a plus. So overall, yeah, I definitely think this was a good episode. So yeah, I recommend this one. What do you think?
Yeah, same.
Sweet.
Very good one.
So now we're going to jump to Spider-Man Season 5, Episode 1, The Wedding.
That's
and
right.
I'm going to see if I can summarize this one, okay?
Okay.
So I actually thought they were going to pull the rug out from under us and say that, well, I'm not going to spoil it. Who knows what happens in this episode? But basically we start off with the lizard the scorpion robbing a bank and, doing his thing. And he like captures Aunt May, which kind of reminds me of, I think it was Spider-Man
2. Yeah.
When Dr. Octopus kidnaps Aunt May, right? Mm-hmm. Or as she's called in this show, Aunt May.
Right.
Should point out the difference there. So Spider-Man eventually tracks them down and he fights the scorpion, rescues Aunt May. And we should back up and say that Peter Parker was getting a gift from Aunt May, which was her family heirloom ring, right?
Right.
And he was going to give it to Mary Jane for their wedding. Meanwhile, Harry Osborn is going through not psychotherapy.
Yeah, almost like he's talking to a psychiatrist, and it's like this doctor to kind of help him through his breakdown and seeing visions of his father. It definitely feels like it's in like some sort of psych ward. Like I thought he was in jail.
Yeah, true.
Right? Like because it looks like Gotham Asylum when they're in
Asylum,
there.
Yeah.
Or is it Arkham Asylum? Yeah. Like it's so dingy and it's like a castle almost on the inside. It's terrifying.
Yeah, that's a good point. So the funny thing about this is that when the therapist is, it's funny when they have therapists in these TV shows and like the therapist will be like, you believe in aliens, but aliens aren't real. And you're thinking, but actually they are because we have Skrulls and Kree and all these, you don't even, you can't say that. So in this show, she's like, well, you believe it's Peter Parker, Spider-Man, and Norman Osborn is the Green Goblin, but they're not. And I'm thinking, but they are. And how do you know they're not, right? Like, unless you have another candidate, how do you know Peter Parker's not Spider-Man, right?
Yeah.
Am I by myself here on this point, or
no? It does make sense. It's like,
like somebody's Spider-Man. He's got a mask,
right?
Anyway, okay, back to the episode. So then, at this point, he's still friends with Mary Jane, but Mary Jane comes to the psych ward and tells Harry that she is going to marry Peter Parker, and he's very shocked, but doesn't really say anything about it. And she's like, well, I thought it'd be better to hear it from me rather than someone else, whatever, right? Mm-hmm. So then meanwhile, this makes Harry kind of go a little bit over the edge. And so then in the meantime, what's his name? Kingpin calls Peter Parker into his office, and he's like, what the heck is this? And then what does Kingpin offer him? I don't remember.
He wants to pay for MJ and Peter's wedding.
Right.
And it turns out that it's like this big publicity stunt because he just bought a rival newspaper to the Daily Bugle.
Right.
And this is like a headline thing because Peter, I guess at some point, saved the Kingpin. So this is his way of repaying him. I don't remember exactly when that happens, but...
Right.
Yeah.
So then meanwhile, Harry Osborn breaks out of jail, And then hooks up with what's his name? Smythe.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The guy who's got like gargoyle feet and weird things on his shoulders. His character's so bizarre.
Yeah.
And then it's so funny because he's kind of being influenced by the memory of Norman Osborn. And at one point, we see Harry Osborn's reflection in like a metal thing, and it's Green Goblin, and he's like making a deal with Smythe. And that just as like the deal goes through, he looks over at the reflection, and Green Goblin kind of does this. I'm watching it. He kind of like looks over, and he kind of goes like he does like the OK sign. It is so funny. Anyway, so like obviously he's being manipulated, but like again, we're not. This is actually not like a memory. Isn't this like the actual Green Goblin from like another dimension or something, right?
Yeah. So
he's in like limbo where Mary Jane was for like an entire year, right?
Yeah, and we still don't know how MJ got back.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, which is bad writing, but whatever.
Okay. All right, just want to make sure we're on the same page.
Right. So anyway, so now we get to the wedding, and of course it's a superhero wedding, so there has to be a supervillain attack. So Green Goblin swoops in and kidnaps Mary Jane and is like flying around with her, and then Scorpion shows up, Black Cat shows up, and then we cut over to Spidey and Black Cat breaking into, the Kingpin sends one of like his robot with his Kingpin face on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's breaking in, and Harry Osborn's got Mary Jane, and he's trying to marry her, like force her into marriage. Meanwhile, Spider-Man and Black Cat break in and they confront Harry Osborn, and then Felicia Hardy basically. Does she confess her love? Yeah, she does, right?
No, not Felicia Hardy. Liz Allen.
Liz Allen. Sorry. Liz Allen. They look the same. Liz Allen confesses her love for Harry, and they kind of walk off together. Black Cat finishes fighting the robots. Spider-Man, reconciles with MJ. Not reconciles, but kind of like gets back together with her. Then it ends with Peter and Mary Jane getting married happily ever after, right?
That's right.
Until it's erased by Joe Quesada. Thank you, Joe. Thank you. Anyway, a little joke at the end. J. Jonah Jameson gives them a gift, and he gives them like the keys, and he's like, "Oh, what is this? The keys to a new car?" And when they get in the car, it's like this piece of crap van.
It's a Daily Bugle van.
Yeah, it's a Daily Bugle van. Yeah, so that's kind of like the joke. But anyway, and then at the end we see Green Goblin kind of like
in heaven.
Yeah, like from like the other dimension. Like, oh, I can't believe this is what happened. Whatever, and that's basically the end.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. This was actually, I thought, a pretty good episode. I don't agree with Peter and Mary Jane being married, but I'm going to hold my prejudice aside and say that this was a fairly decent episode. What did you think?
Yeah, it felt like just so much happened and so much was crammed into the episode.
Okay.
I just felt like we needed a little bit more time to breathe.
Right.
I liked a lot of the stuff that happened. I liked the whole Kingpin angle and giving him a reason to be in the picture without him like pulling the strings in the background. Like,
right.
He's there pulling the strings but for a completely different reason. It's for his personal gain for his new newspaper that he bought. So that's super fun. Like that. Does the Scorpion need to be here?
No, not at all.
You know what I mean? Like, it's really just so Spidey can have a fight at the beginning of this episode. Right. And then he doesn't really show up until the end. When he hops on one of the robot's gliders, like on the back, and he shows up to the wedding, but doesn't really do much. Like, I think he fights Black Cat, but he just kind of is done with by the end. So I feel like if they took Scorpion out, we could have a little bit more time maybe to add Felicia in, give her like a better reason for being there, and like catch audiences back up with her being the Black Cat. So when she turns back into the Black Cat at the end, it makes sense. Possibly give a little bit more time to Harry and seeing him kind of like turn back into the Green Goblin, because I felt like it was pretty weak that she's just like, hey, by the way, I'm visiting you in the psych ward. I'm getting married. And he's like, I have to go. I need to do a nervous breakdown now. And then leaves. Right. It's like, I liked a lot of the stuff that happened. I just felt like it was so rushed. I did watch this. I was telling Mike earlier too. I did watch this one late at night, so that could also be a reason why I was pretty tired watching this one. But yeah, it was all right. It was okay.
It's just funny because they always think that these marriage episodes require more drama to be added on top of them. But if they just focused on the characters, I think that would be enough, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Like, even if you had a little hint of Green Goblin or whatever, that's fine. But we definitely don't need Scorpion coming in. Definitely not. So that was a little bit too much, right?
Yeah. Another thing, too, is like, we also just had Harry becoming Green Goblin and then getting over that.
Right.
So then in this issue, we see him trying to deal with that, and then he slips back into the Goblin for a couple of hours to fuck up Peter and MJ's wedding. And then by the end, Liz is like, oh, hey, by the way, I've always been in love with you. And he's like, oh, okay, cured again. Like, he's just like done being the Goblin. I wonder if he's going to turn into the Goblin again later on, but it seems kind of like this is a worse resolution than what we got last time. So to bring him back seems kind of like, well, it's the wedding issue, so we've got to do something big, so we got to bring back Green Goblin or somebody to really like be, Spidey's arch nemesis at their wedding.
Right.
And it could have just been even Kingpin, like, he's paying for the wedding because he has a plan to bring a bunch of robots to the wedding to ruin it. And he has the scoop because he's going to be there with photographers and planning the whole wedding. So he has complete control over like this disaster wedding that's going to happen. You know what I mean? So like that's even a better angle, I think. And then Spidey has to stop Kingpin from ruining the wedding, and JJ's ends up being the one that gets all the pictures at the end. So the Bugles got the scoop, and then MJ and Peter ride off in their van or whatever. It was okay. It wasn't bad. I just feel like there's plenty of other things they could have done for this without having it to make it this huge spectacle with bringing back the Goblin and throw Scorpion in there. We'll have Kingpin and JJ and just like so much crammed into 22 minutes.
I totally agree.
Yeah. While I did enjoy it, I just thought it could have been a lot better, I think, and was maybe a little... I think I enjoyed it a little bit less than the other two.
Sure, that's fair. So this is actually the beginning of season 5, and this is the last season, right? Mm-hmm. Interesting. We are going to be reviewing every single episode going forward. Like we've kind of started in the last... started with season 4, I think. We started doing every episode. Mm-hmm. So be sure to join us. We're also going to be jumping back to the comics next week, and we're going to be reviewing Amazing Spider-Man 319 and 320, Spectacular 154 and Web 54, and we'll have a special guest with us, Lisa LaBeouf, Langy, Langlois, Lane, Luther. I don't know what her actual last name is, but she'll be joining us. So be sure to join us, and it'll be a good time. And Josh, you can take it from here.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast. Really helps when you leave us a review or a comment. You can find us on Facebook or Twitter, on our website at the Comic Book Syndicate. You can find all our podcasts there or anywhere else you can find podcasts. Let us know what you guys think about the issues or the podcast episodes or the TV episodes that we're going to be talking about. Let's keep that comics conversation going.
That's right. And until next Monday, Spider Friends,
go for it!